Hello everyone, welcome to yet another day in this The Clown Decade, the decade where things are only going to get worse before they get better. And as much as I've been saying, oh there's plenty of reasons to be white-pilled, this episode is a particular white pill, but not one that is particularly white-pilling for the people that represent us. So I have covered this topic many times in the past, but new facts have come to light. Starmer makes new concessions over Chagos suggests Mauritius. PM in race to complete deal to cede control of archipelago, which has been British for 200 years. And the reason he is racing to complete this is ideally he wants the deal signed off before the Trump administration can come in and stop the damn thing. Because believe it or not, America are going to want this archipelago with a joint UK-US naval base to actually be owned by the UK and not by a state that is, in all but name, a vassal of China, an enemy state. So the negotiator for the island nation said he was not leaving empty-handed from talks in London aimed at reviving the deal, which the US president-elect opposes. And again, half the reason for this was supposed to be because Biden wanted a sort of deal that guaranteed a lease for the Chagos Islands, because the lease was coming to an end. Mauritius was saying, hey, this is ours, this international court says so, because international courts totally aren't a joke. But my god, we're coming back to that judging later in the episode. But anyway, therefore, because the UN says that it's ours, we want it back. And Britain, instead of just giving a straight no, was saying, oh, well, when the lease comes to an end, we'll think about it. Unfortunately, when it comes to the end of that lease, Labour have come up in charge, so this hasn't gone well. His remarks were heightened speculation that Number 10 is ready to offer Mauritius more money up front in return for signing the agreement to give the archipelago away. Yet again, this is something that when I tell people, they just don't believe me it's happening. You know, the first question asked is, why are we giving them money when we're giving them land? And the answer to that is, well, unironically, Labour want to humiliate us, but we'll get into that. Sakir agreed a deal with the previous Mauritian government to give away the Indian Ocean archipelago, which has been British for 200 years. Under the pact, UK taxpayers will pay Mauritius a reported £9 billion over 99 years to lease back Diego Garcia, the site of a key US airbase. No, I thought it was naval. Apparently it's air. It's also joint to the UK, so we use it too. Again, we are paying for a joint US-UK airbase for some reason when we wouldn't have to pay that if we just kept owning it. Anyway, this was the deal with the old Mauritian government that was going to be signed, but Mauritius got a new government that is a bit less pro-China. And they have said that the 99-year lease for Diego Garcia is actually too long. The island is home to a US airbase, which is key to Western influence in the region, so they basically don't want to annoy the US by owning territory where the US own an airbase. Basically they really do want the UK to keep it, yet they will only take it with further concessions. The country's negotiators have also said that a clause in the agreement that allows the UK to exercise the sovereignty of Mauritius is too restrictive. Finally, they have said that they want fair and equitable compensation for the continued use of Diego Garcia beyond the £90 million a year offer. Mr. Ramgoolam, has reportedly demanded £800 million a year for as long as Britain wants to keep hold of the base, along with billions more in reparations. Yeah, we're being rinsed for money to get rid of these islands, and apparently this is public service, according to the Labour government. When I've written to my Labour MP, effectively, she came back saying, oh, well, you see, this will all be scrutinised in Parliament. We'll take a look at it. And none of this seems to be being scrutinised by Labour at all. So, effectively, I've written to her again saying that I'm very disappointed that you're just giving me the Labour line. And if she just gives me the Labour line again, I'm going to say I've got to do everything in my power to get you out of office next election. Sakir seems determined to try and get a new agreement reached before Mr. Trump takes up office at the White House next Monday. Because, again, the Trump team are completely against ceding territory with their own airbase on to a vassal of an enemy state. Geopolitically, we are run by complete and utter morons who actually wish to humiliate us, but again, we're getting to that soon. Anyway, the white pilling part. UK to wait for Donald Trump's approval before signing the Chagos deal. Sir Keir Starmer's government has been optimistic about getting an accord with Mauritius. And now hopefully Trump's going to pull the rug from under them. I really hope he does. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely hate the fact that I am having to rely on a foreign president to stop my own country's government humiliating itself. But this is where we're at with this clown decade. Britain will await Donald Trump's blessing before finalising a deal with Mauritius over the future of a strategic US-UK military base in the Indian Ocean. The UK government had in recent weeks been optimistic about securing an agreement with Mauritius over the Chagos Islands before the president-elect is sworn into office on January 20. On Sunday, British officials said good progress had been made in negotiations after London offered to front-load a tranche of payments to Port Louis for the proposed 99-year lease of Diego Garcia, and, well, you know all that bit. However, Britain is no longer pressing for the formal announcement of the deal before the US inauguration unless the agreement has gained the explicit approval of the incoming administration, the People said. While various different timing scenarios remain in play, confidence has faded among British government figures that the deal will be secured before next Monday. Thank God for small miracles like that. Can you imagine if this was actually signed? To be fair, if it actually went through, it would be the easiest leaflets to make in the world. Labour during our cost of living crisis and while your granny freezes to death decided to give literally billions of pounds a year away to Mauritius so that we could give away some islands that were ours. Could you imagine that? I mean, you could still make those leaflets, I suppose. You could say they tried to do that, but it would be a lot more hard-hitting if it actually happened. A senior UK Foreign Office official is in Washington this week for talks touching on the issue with representatives from both the outgoing Joe Biden team and the incoming Trump team. The White House did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Marco Rubio, Trump's pick for Secretary of State, was critical of the plan last autumn, citing concerns that it could bolster Chinese interests in the Indian Ocean. Yeah, America don't want this, so it is more than likely not going to happen because Trump is going to veto it. All while our government was rushing to get it through, conceding everywhere it could to try and get this deal signed before Trump actually got into office. Humiliated on two fronts. One, because they're trying to give away our islands and pay the people taking them for the pleasure of taking them, and then that plan being stopped by our American overlords. Thank God Trump's in charge. If it was Biden still in charge, it would have been signed off by now. Anyway, moving on to why the Starmer government seems intent on this ritualistic humiliation of Britain. Well, it's because he's got a load of friends who like to humiliate Britain. There are just 8 days to go, 5 days now, until Donald Trump takes office, so the question much of Whitehall is asking is, will David Lammy's Chagos deal get over the line in time? The agreement to hand the valuable cluster of islands to Mauritius has been attacked by China hawks in the US, including Marco Rubio, Trump's pick for Secretary of State. He has decried the deal as a serious threat to national security interests in the Indian Ocean. Given those risks, why is the Labour government so intent on pressing ahead? After all, handing over British territory isn't cheap. The current bill stands at £9 billion for the UK taxpayer, and concessions have been made since this article was written as well. One reason why the Labour government might be keen on settling the issue is direction from the top. Starmer's close friend, Philippe Sands KC, is Mauritius's chief legal advisor and a long-time agitator for Mauritius' control of the islands. The pair co-founded Matrix Chambers, from which Starmer plucked his Attorney General Richard Hermer, ennobling him back in July. Sands is a regular on various political panels, boasting at Cambridge last year about humiliating the UK in international courts. Sadly, though, it seems these days his public appearances are a little more curated, and we'll get into that in a sec, because that isn't even hyperbole. He was actually boasting that he was happy and proud to humiliate Britain in international courts. Here's the clip. I'm just going to let it roll, because you have to hear the whole thing to believe it.
We were talking earlier in the student event about the fact that you've taken on a lot of cases against the UK, your home country, and that's completely acceptable.
Yeah, it's a really fantastic thing about Britain, that I think it's probably the only country in the world where when you've been to an international court against your own country, won and humiliated them completely, they still celebrate you. And that is special. I mean, it's slightly said in jest, but how many other countries have the openness of mind and spirit to recognize that a member of their legal community, a barrister, in exercise of an independent profession, can be retained by another country to sue the United Kingdom in international court, and that is not held against you? I feel very proud of that. And we were discussing it before at the student event. It's an openness of spirit, which is, I think, right now under threat with things like enemies of the people and lefty lawyers and this kind of thing, which is a new development just in the last 5 years. But I think generally most people in this country are passionate believers in and supporters of the idea that when you as a member of the bar act for a particular person or company or state, you're not expressing your own views, you're fulfilling a professional obligation and acting with independence and integrity. It's not anti-British to act against the United Kingdom. In fact, it's the very opposite.
It's just crazy, but this is unironically one of the people largely influencing our geopolitical policy in the UK at the moment. He's not an official advisor or anything like that. However, he is a Labour Party member and close friend of Starmer. There's no way that there's no influence here. There is no way Starmer would be trying to give away the Mauritius Islands as hard as this without some sort of influence, like someone who is proud to humiliate Britain. It's crazy. This man should not be a KC. We should not be training up lawyers to then represent states who are effectively trying to sue us. Talk about heaping up your own funeral pyre. And he's clearly a vindictive man. Philippe Sand's appearance at the Jewish Labour Conference Day carries a warning note. This session is open to attendees but not journalists. The subject of discussion, you asked? A conversation on human rights and international law. You couldn't make it up, so he's banned journalists from coming along to a Jewish Labour conference event talking about international law, effectively because it's really easy to grill him on why are you supporting international law that is largely against Britain's interest in humiliating us? Why are you proud to humiliate us? So of course he doesn't want to get grilled on this sort of thing because his only answer is because I hate Britain. The conference blurb breathlessly offers the chance to hear from two leading barristers at a time when the rules-based international order seems threatened. Mr. Steerpike, which is the anonymous writer at The Spectator, wonders whether handing over Chagos to China ally will help or hobble that rule-based system, eh? Sadly, it seems that the conference is not the only place where answers are in short supply. For the Commons, Mark Francois has asked the government for a list of all meetings between Starmer and Stans on the subject of Diego Garcia since the election. Starmer and Sands. The government response has been to direct him to the Gov UK website where details of such meetings are published. Sadly, though, not before 20th of January. Yeah, this government is just simply vindictive. There's no other word for it. They are trying to humiliate us and they are avoiding every sort of scrutiny that you could ask for from either the journalist class or the opposition benches, or even the general public, as my letter and reply from my MP has told me. And the annoying part is, they can get away with it because they have 400 odd seats, because last election was largely an election of people effectively wanting to punish the Tories because they felt humiliated by them for trusting them for 14 years and getting absolutely nothing major that they wanted in terms of policy out of them. That gave Labour a pretty much free win, and now we're all being humiliated. Unfortunately, elections do actually have consequences, and unfortunately we're going to have to live through this one. Luckily, we can rely on America to damage control our humiliating geopolitical strategy of let's just give our things away and pay the people who are taking those things from us. Anyway, that's about as much British humiliation as I can go through in one video. This is just embarrassing on every level. And I would like to thank the Americans for voting in Donald Trump, who is managing to limit our humiliation. Don't get me wrong, it is still humiliating to have to rely on the Americans to stop us embarrassing ourselves, but at the end of the day it's even more embarrassing to cede our territory and pay the people we are ceding territory to for the pleasure of taking our territory. Anyway, with that, that's everything I had for you for today, so chill time tonight, No, we did Tosh News yesterday. Saturday, it is Laughing at the Guardian, so do come along to that. Next Tuesday, it is Tosh Talks. We don't know the topic yet, but if you want to get involved in voting on that topic or suggesting them, do join the Worcester Club Discord down below, links in the description. If you enjoy my work, please do subscribe to the channel, leave a comment and a like. Those are the best ways and most free ways that you can support the channel. If you think I deserve a little bit more, membership starts at £2 a month, or you can send super chats and super thanks on any live stream, or leave the super thanks in the comments below. Obviously they are more direct ways to help out the channel, but as I say, completely free for your choice. The only benefit you really get is if you become a member, you have access to all my old Laughing at the Guardian episodes, because some of them are quite spicy. Anyway, as I said, that is all I had for you for today, so once again, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.